segue into our afternoon's very special event. So if we could just take our seats. I'll hold on to my dress. So, good afternoon. I am so pleased to welcome you all here today to the home and campus of World Learning in SIT, along with our honoured guests and speakers. I am the president of SIT, Dr. Sophia Howlett. Oh, thank you. We're delighted that you have joined us on this very special day and this very special place. This morning, SIT celebrated its 58th commencement ceremony with the new graduates, their families, and our faculty. And this afternoon, we are honoured to celebrate an important foundational partnership with our friends at the Peace Corps and all those who have contributed to it over the years. With our shared history, SIT and the Peace Corps both grew together from the vision of President John F. Kennedy, a vision of service, of contribution, of building greater understanding whether at home or globally. Through our historic cooperation, the volunteers who were trained here on our beautiful campus in Vermont have gone out and built indelible connections, relationships that transcend borders, that rise above conflict, comfort us in times of despair, and fuel our hopes for a more sustainable, just, and peaceful world. Collectively, World Learning, School for International Training, and the Peace Corps have inspired tens of thousands of people to go beyond their personal, geographic, and intellectual comfort zones to live, work, and learn alongside communities around the globe. Together, they have impacted the world and also been transformed themselves. And I know that many folks here know exactly what I mean by that. This extraordinary synergy that we celebrate here today is not so surprising. I think of that moment during Kennedy's presidential campaign that became the spark for his bold new vision. The senator had arrived at the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor at 2 a.m. Waiting to hear him speak were 10,000 university students. And the future president asked how many of those students would be willing to serve their country and the cause of peace by living and working abroad. 1,000 students stepped forward, willing, wanting to serve. This morning, SIT conferred master's degrees to 55 individuals equally committed to serve, whether by addressing the challenges of a warming planet, of war, of endangered democracies and human rights, or the exploitation of land and people. Many of our new graduates were inspired to join SIT because of their time in the Peace Corps. Many will connect and find allies for their work in the future with Peace Corps volunteers and alumni across the world. For we not only share histories, we were both born out of the power and energy of students to galvanize an idea, and the role of a university and a great institution, the Peace Corps, to support and inspire them. Our student speaker this morning, Dominique Sabatoni, perhaps said it best. She described how, feeling overwhelmed, she drew on a teacher's advice to pick up a metaphorical broom and start sweeping our own small street, trusting that others are sweeping theirs. Because while we cannot change the world on our own, we can do it together. This is what SIT students do. It is what Peace Corps volunteers do. It is what we do as we support them. Some 60 years on, World Learning, SIT, the Peace Corps continue to uphold our commitments to our students, participants, and volunteers to to our country, and to our world. So thank you so very much for being here today to join us in honouring this extraordinary partnership. Now, here to say more, I am privileged to present our CEO, Howlett Jenkins.
Thank you, Sophie, and thank you all for being with us today for this special, official dedication of the Peace Corps marker in World Learning SIT. Thank you to our board chair, Larry Cooley, and our other board members, staff, and faculty who are here. I also want to acknowledge a few other guests. Lee Satterfield, Assistant Secretary of State for the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. Lee, thank you for being such a dynamic leader and tireless champion of public diplomacy and exchange. Richard Roderick, a Vermont RPCV, and the one who first suggested the idea of this historic site marker. Wendy Rice, President of the Green Mountain Return Peace Corps Association. She served in Cameroon and is an SIT study abroad alum. Thank you for working with our team and for helping to make the marker a reality. Laura Trishman, the State Historic Preservation Officer, was instrumental as well by representing Vermont in our efforts to create the marker. Dan Baker is here representing the National Peace Corps Association. Welcome. Haley Perot is here from Senator Bernie Sanders' office. Thank you. Jerry Ritchley, a World Learning Global Advisory Council member and RPCV to Senegal. Thank you for helping to make today a success and for being a mentor to so many of us. There's so many people I could thank. Again, I just want to thank you all for joining us today. World Learning's roots with the Peace Corps date back to 1961, when Sergeant Shriver, the first Peace Corps director and Experiment in International Living alumnus, called on the experiment to help design some of the first Peace Corps programs and train early volunteers. Over time, the experiment helped shape nearly 70 Peace Corps projects and train volunteers for service in more than 30 countries. These historical trainings led to the establishment of SIT. And today, all of World Learning's unique branches are still grounded in the experiment's foundational concept of experiential learning, just like the Peace Corps, an organization that opens the world to those who want to be change makers, to immerse themselves in a community abroad, working side by side with local leaders to tackle the most pressing challenges of our generation. At World Learning, we too create a global network of learners who are empowered to become community builders and collaborators, and to gain a new understanding and respect for those who are different from themselves. Our programs amplify the voices and agency of all people from myriad backgrounds, countries, cultures, and experiences. We, like the Peace Corps, are committed to making a better world for future generations. But instead of hearing my words, and much like the inspirational words of Dominique that Sophie shared just now, I would like to share the words of someone who decades ago joined the experiment to look for a new experience, a chance to live in another culture and to view his own culture through the eyes of others. His name is Charlie Pollock. He joined the experiment 25 years ago, and his family boasts 3 generations of experimenters spanning more than 50 years. We spoke to Mr. Pollock as part of our 90th anniversary celebration this year and asked him if he would recommend the experiment today. Mr. Pollock said yes. For all the personal reasons you might expect, it broadened his horizons, it helped him to be at ease in new situations, and taught him to turn strangers into friends. But it is what he went on to say about the program and its larger implications for our world today that I want to share. He said this: not all the problems of the world are due to fear, prejudice, cultural generalizations, and misunderstanding, but a lot of them are. And there's no better way to combat those dangerous human impulses, to learn how to individuate rather than condemn whole cultures with prejudice, than by living with people who are different than yourself. He went on to say it's hard to hate or fear people from another culture when you've spent time making a home with them. Both World Learning and the Peace Corps remain committed to the belief that a framework of human connections and education is an effective and powerful way to make lasting change. With each year, my belief in this vision to solve our time's most pressing problems grows ever greater. I am proud to be here today to recognize and celebrate World Learning, SIT, the experiment, and the Peace Corps history as a partnership and hope for a better future. I would now like to introduce Giovanni McLaren, who herself has a background uniquely connected to World Learning, SIT, the experiment, and the Peace Corps. Giovanni is currently the program manager for the Global Communities Living Learning program at the University of Maryland. In 2018, she earned her master's degree in international education from SIT Graduate Institute and went on to be part of SIT Study Abroad's University Relations team as a manager for the Lower Atlantic region. Prior, she worked as a program assistant for the experiment. She is a returned Peace Corps volunteer from the Philippines. Today, she will be reading remarks by Tim Schreiber, Sergeant Schreiber's son.
Carol. I am so honored to be here with you all today and thrilled to be back on a campus that I call home. And it is my privilege today to read the remarks of Timothy Schreiber, son of Sergeant Schreiber, written on August 11, 2022. Dear colleagues, allies, leaders, and change makers for peace, justice, and understanding, it is my great pleasure to extend my thanks and the thanks of everyone in my family for the extraordinary generations of work that have been done by the Experiment in International Living, the United States Peace Corps, and World Learning. No alliance of organizations or people have done more to break down the walls of misunderstanding and fear that have divided culture from culture, religion from religion, country from country, people from people, and furthermore, no group of organizations or team of individuals have done more to stay the course in these days of increased division and polarization. Never was your work more important than it is today, and never is it more important to build on the extraordinary work of the past generations than it is right now. Let me also share with you that I am confident that my father and the many men and women of his generation are smiling on this gathering today. My dad never tired of speaking about the impact his trip with the Experiment in International Living had on his entire life, on his view of the urgency of peace as an alternative to war, on his view that governed the foundation of the Peace Corps' commitment to an interculturation model of solidarity and relationship development, on his work to promote economic opportunity and fight against the systems and structures that keep people in the United States and around the world in poverty. What he learned at the experiment, he took to the Peace Corps, to Head Start, to the Job Corps, to his work at the Catholic Interracial Council, to his work to promote nuclear disarmament, to his work with Special Olympics. It all started when you gave him a chance as a young man to see the world through the eyes of another, and to know that by seeing through those eyes, he could see more deeply and more accurately the truth. I know he is cheering from afar. There are many in the world today who approach the future with gloom. Polarization is killing us. Democracy is on the wane. Demagogic populism is destroying the fabric of the possibilities of the future. I encourage you to let none of those voices dim your optimism or weaken your resolve. Perhaps they come from a place of fear, but they should not stop those who are fighting fear with action. That is your legacy. That is your tradition. And that is the urgency with which the world needs you today. Congratulations on an extraordinary celebration. Best wishes, Timothy Schreiber.
It is now my honor to introduce Congressman Peter Welch, who has served as the U.S. Representative for Vermont's at-large congressional district since 2007. Since his election to Congress, he has been recognized as a thoughtful legislator on issues such as job creation, affordable education and health care, energy efficiency, and support for veterans. He is part of the majority leadership in the House and sits on numerous House committees. In addition, he is a member of the Congressional Caucus on International Exchange and Study. So we appreciate his understanding of the importance of intercultural engagement through exchanges and study abroad. Also, his advocacy at the federal level for World Learning and SIT's work to assist incoming refugees here in Vermont has been greatly appreciated. Thank you and welcome, Congressman Welch.
It is so wonderful to be here. I didn't know the full history. What I knew is when I was a young boy, really, I was in high school, John F. Kennedy was talking about the Peace Corps. And I just remembered, as a teenager, this incredible sense of hope and possibility that I and my classmates, who otherwise were just focused on basketball, what we're doing that weekend, had, where it felt as though we were being given this opportunity to go into this bigger, broader world with people we didn't know, but we had a feeling it would be good to get to know. And that challenge that you mentioned, that the president, the then senator, gave at Michigan when 1,000 people stepped forward, young men and women, we need more of that. And we need it every year. And one of the reasons we need it, it's not just that you get to contribute, to do something that's interesting and useful, to do something you can leave behind where you serve. The biggest beneficiaries of the people who make that decision to go in the Peace Corps are the people who went in the Peace Corps. It enriches us. And what President Kennedy understood, what Sergeant Schreiber understood, what really motivates, I think, the efforts of the institutions that are here is that knowledge that, yes, we can help, but we're doing so much for ourselves where we're advocating and embracing a value of service. And we were just talking, the best antidote to cynicism is making a personal decision that's for the other side, but that's for other people. I'm embracing hope. I want to wake up and face the day, whatever those problems, whatever those challenges may be. And, serving in the Peace Corps, I just think about it. You land, we were talking, you don't speak the language, you've gotten a little language training, but language training is one thing, but, ordering breakfast is another, and you've got to really plunge in and do it. You've got to find your way around. You've got to embrace the enormous effort that goes into, in a respectful way, becoming integrated into the place and with the people you want to serve. And the other thing that's amazing to me, we're sitting here on this beautiful Vermont hillside, and I was looking out at that view that you're all looking at now, and all those hills, and then there's the next set of hills, and then there's the next set of hills, and what's on beyond those hills? In this school, what's beyond those hills is Niger. It's Cameroon. It's the Maldives. It is the world out there that's waiting for the people who graduate. You had a wonderful graduation earlier today. And I just am so amazed as a Vermonter that in this little corner of Vermont, in 1932, Mr. Watts had this idea that right from here, Vermonters could start to play a major role in helping make this a better state, make this a better country, and make this a better world. And the other thing I want to say, I want to acknowledge the person who's not here that we owe such a debt of gratitude to, and of course that's Patrick Leahy. And just think about that man. 48 years of steadfast service with integrity and commitment. But here's what's so really important, I think, about Patrick, because he, I think, would say all the things that our speakers have said about the importance of the work that has been done here. But he understood something else that's really important for us to understand as a society. It's really terrific if individuals step forward. They decide they want to go to the Maldives. They want to serve in Niger. But for an individual who's got the idealism and the discipline to make that commitment, they need an institution behind them. They need a place where they can go and actually get training. They need a place they can go where people who have served can give them the benefit of their experience. They need a place where they can then return to and help educate and train the next generation of servants. And what Patrick understood is the absolute importance of sustainable institutions to meet those goals that we share. In over 48 years, nobody has done more to help us have these institutions than Patrick Leahy. And I want to pay respect to and acknowledge Patrick's service, but I also want to make the point that all of us have to understand what he understood. Institutions really matter. We've got to build them, not destroy them. We can reform them, but we can't destroy them. And what this institution has done right here is over generations now maintained this commitment to public service by training those among us who step up and say, I want to serve. And they say they want to serve, and they're willing to endure the training, the discipline that goes along with service, not just the aspiration. To turn that aspiration into reality, to make that journey across these mountains to a distant land productive for the benefit of the people you're serving, as opposed to just the personal experience. You need what we have here. So I want to just conclude by saying what a proud moment this is for me as a Vermonter to be here as part of this celebration, and how much I think people like Patrick Leahy and Nita Lowy, another great champion who served with me in the House as the chair of the Appropriations Committee, understood that vital role that institutions play in allowing individuals to do the extraordinarily important work that is being done right from here in this small, tiny, powerful, international location here in the hills of Vermont. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So, U.S. Senator Patrick Leahy. I'm just going to say a few things that he said, and then I'm going to introduce Catherine Long. He said over the years that our organization is not simply Vermont's window to the world, it is its door. And as we know, Senator Leahy could not make today's ceremony, but we wish him well as he continues to heal. And we are pleased to have Catherine Long, Senator Leahy's casework manager, who has served in his Burlington office for nearly 15 years. Her portfolio includes military and veterans affairs, housing, taxes, and Peace Corps casework. She was instrumental in our successful efforts to repatriate 920 SIT students from 54 countries during the pandemic when borders were rapidly closing. Catherine is an RPCV as well, having served in Niger. Thank you and welcome, Catherine.
Congressman, thank you for those wonderful, kind words, and we'll be sure to share those as well with Senator Leahy. It's a pleasure to be here today, and thank you for the opportunity to speak on behalf of Senator Leahy he asked that I relay his pride and gratitude for the long partnership between World Learning and the Peace Corps. Special thanks go to Wendy Rice and to Richard Rogers for their dedicated leadership throughout the pandemic that led to the creation of this wonderful marker here, commemorating the establishment of the Experiment in International Living here in Brattleboro as the primary Peace Corps training center. I want to also thank former Director Jody Olson and Carol Spahn. Is it Spahn or Spahn? Apologies. President Howlett and Carol Jenkins and Joel Colony of World Learning, as well as to the Vermont Division of Historic Preservation for their recognition of the importance of this project. On a personal note, experiential learning and service abroad are a huge part of who I am. Sharing a bowl of millet and okra with your host family, carrying a bucket of rocks on your head, trying to learn to joke in a foreign language, perhaps becoming the butt of a joke. Trying to make an impact with your service. These are the experiences that teach Americans humility, resilience, and a global perspective. My notes say, slow down. The experiment begun here by World Learning ultimately inspired Sergeant Shriver and President Kennedy's vision of the Peace Corps, changing the lives of countless people in the United States and around the world. As you know, Peace Corps changed my life, and I know so many of yours. Over 60 years later, the relationship between Vermont and the Peace Corps remains strong. The state of Vermont and our universities consistently rank among the top volunteer producers, and our communities are enriched by the many volunteers who choose to return and make their homes here in Vermont. Individually and as part of groups around the state, these volunteers stay connected to the world through efforts like Petals for Progress, volunteering with refugee resettlement programs, and so much more. Over the years, Senator Leahy and his wife Marcelle have visited Peace Corps volunteers on their travels overseas, and he's consistently, as Congressman Welch said, advocated for funding for the Peace Corps in his role in appropriations. For fiscal year 2023, I'm proud to say he's supporting $430 million for Peace Corps, which is $20 million above the previous fiscal year. And he'll continue to be one of the Peace Corps' proudest supporters in Washington and here in Vermont. We're lucky as well that Congressman Welch is here today, and we'll be able to, with any luck, continue that legacy. He's also, Senator Leahy has worked for many years to get Peace Corps volunteers to Vietnam. It's a particular concern of his to build that relationship back. He's looking forward to making the case to sending volunteers to Laos when he visits there in the coming year. World Learning, too, continues its leadership in experiential, cross-cultural, and intercultural training around the world and right here in Brattleboro. Recently, in partnership with ECDC, SIT welcomed nearly 100 Afghan refugees here to the campus, bringing together faculty, alumni, and neighbors to offer language, cultural orientation, and friendship in a program that's quickly becoming a national model. Senator Leahy was proud to help invest in this important work by including a $1.15 million congressionally directed spending request in the upcoming federal spending bills for this program. And while these bills still need to pass through Congress, it's the senator's hope and intention that once passed, SIT will receive a federal investment to strengthen its important program. So in closing, this historic marker is a tangible reminder of the outside role that Vermont plays on the world stage. Senator Leahy remains committed to the enduring legacy of the partnership begun here in Brattleboro. And I, as a Peace Corps volunteer and a member of his staff, thank you for the opportunity to share in the celebration today.
I now have the pleasure of introducing Carol Spahn. As CEO, Carol Spahn brings to the Peace Corps more than 25 years of public and private sector experience. She has worked around the world on issues ranging from small business development to infectious disease prevention and women's empowerment. Most recently, she served as the Peace Corps Chief of Operations in Eastern and Southern Africa. Previously, she served as Country Director of the Peace Corps in Malawi. Carol's Peace Corps roots extend back to her service as a volunteer from 1994 to 1996 in Romania. Before returning to the Peace Corps as Country Director, she was Senior Vice President of Operations at Women for Women International, which serves marginalized and socially excluded women in conflict-affected countries. We are so pleased you could join us today, Carol, and thank you again for being the keynote speaker at this morning's commencement ceremony as well.
Thank you so much. It is with great joy that I'm here with all of you today, having met people who were part of the early experiment, volunteers and staff from Peace Corps history, and Wendy and President Howlett for all of your work bringing this historical marker to life. It is beautiful. It is absolutely beautiful, and I'd like to give a round of applause to all of those who have been involved. It's important to recognize those moments that bring us to where we are, and to really honor the intention with which we come together today and with which our organizations were formed. I spoke earlier about trusting your journey, and I find it incredibly fitting that this marker will find its permanent home on the long, winding Black Mountain Road where many people have begun or continued their service journeys. Catherine, thank you for representing Senator Leahy's office. Thank you for your service. I would like to see you carrying rocks on your head later. We can have a demonstration. Please do pass along my best wishes to the Senator for his quick recovery, and I will tell you that Vietnam is on track to receive volunteers in early 2023, which is 17 years in the making. Very, very proud of that. Representative Welch, thank you for welcoming us to your gorgeous and hospitable state, and for your support of the Peace Corps, SIT, and World Learning. And that visual of Niger and Maldives over the mountain will stick with me, because I wish everyone thought about the world that way and thought about the world beyond our own borders. And thank you for lending your citizens to the Peace Corps. Over 1,600 Vermonters have served in the Peace Corps since 1961. And when compared as a percentage of volunteers per capita, Vermont consistently ranks high among the states represented by Peace Corps volunteers. And I have to think that it has something to do with this institution, with the community of volunteering, the community of service, and that connection to each other and the world. In the world that is so much a part of Vermont and the culture of Vermont. So thank you, and thank you to all of the Vermonters who are here and who continue to move that culture forward and continue to engage around the world. And Lee, the Assistant Secretary of the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, also very, very happy you could join us today, and thank you for your support. The exchanges and cultural engagement across borders is a critical component of connection, and we have been part of discussions about building bridges across difference, overcoming hate. And the way that you overcome hate is through engagement and by knowing people. So thank you for being here. So with World Learning celebrating their 90th anniversary this year, SIT in its 58th, and Peace Corps wrapping up our 61st year, there is certainly an abundance of history to commemorate, and today offers a profound moment to reflect on the shared history and values among these three institutions, and to honor the bold visionaries who dreamed our institutions into existence. Dr. Donald Watt, President John F. Kennedy, Gordon Bryce Boyce, and Sergeant Shriver. And when Sergeant Shriver took charge of the Peace Corps, building on his time with the experiment, and
and I'll go back to that word, the experiment in international living, he took charge. In just 2 short years, there were 7,000 volunteers in 44 countries. That is amazing. And Americans were eager to serve. The White House was flooded with requests when the president asked, "Are you willing?" There was a hunger to be a part of a different kind of outreach and engagement with the world, a new kind of diplomacy. It was bold and pioneering, and it was risky. And a movement was formed that recognized and energized an entire country. A movement that involved sacrifice and that recognized the long-term value of building relationships. I really wish I could have been in the room during that early brainstorming when the foundational principles were laid, the core values that are shared in so many ways between SIT, World Learning, and Peace Corps. The values of deep engagement with and respect for local communities, learning the local language, and long-term commitment. Values that are so strong that they remain foundational today. What our founders may not have envisioned is how those bonds would live a lifetime, or just how powerful a network has been created based on those shared values and experiences. I heard early today that SIT has 152,000 alums. Did I get that right? Close enough? And Peace Corps has 241,000. That is an army of peacemakers. That is an army of people who are willing to get out there and to move the world and to fight for peace. We see that just now, and it is so incredibly inspiring. We see SIT, Peace Corps, and World Learning all stepped up to support Afghani refugees and Ukrainian refugees, just as the experiment in living stepped up to shelter Hungarian refugees back in the 50s, or when Soviet forces defeated the Hungarian Revolution, or again in the 70s when the experiment stepped up to offer language, intercultural, and job skills training for refugees entering the U.S. from the former Indochina. This makes me think about a beautiful coffee table book from Women for Women International, as we heard, an organization that works with women in post-conflict zones. It has stunning images of the faces of women from around the world. And the title is, "If You Knew Me, You Would Care." If you knew me, you would care. Did our founders envision the power of really knowing someone enough, not only to care, but also to take action? As we collectively rebuild following COVID, and as we adjust to our new reality, that power of knowing people whose reality is fundamentally different than our own cannot be underestimated. We had a Thought Leaders Forum last month when an RPCD from Mozambique, Wang Tai Tao, talked about the Peace Corps as an organization that sees the trees rather than just the forest. A simple but beautiful statement. And I think this observation is a direct testament that what we do to invest in relationships, to promote bottom-up development, and to support the communities at the last mile. But as he went on to say, scaling up is very important, the idea of connecting the trees to the forest. As a global community, rebuilding during an ongoing global pandemic that has set back development progress by over a decade, we need to connect the trees to the forest. When the largest generation of youth in history, almost 90% of whom live in developing countries, are hungry for opportunity, we need to scale. And when countries and societies are polarizing and turning inward, we need to care enough to act and to come together. Peace Corps is now back in 23 countries around the world, with many more ready to follow right behind. But I wonder what it will take to unleash that same energy, the energy in 1961 that sparked a movement and inspired people across the country to join forces. That is the challenge before us today, because, ladies and gentlemen, the forest is on fire, and we need to act. And organizations with big hearts, like those represented today, We are very good at planting trees that we rarely see full grown or sit in the shade of. But today, as we gather here to enjoy that shade and take in the view of how the seeds of peace and hope have grown, I also challenge us to be bold visionaries, to set out audacious goals in the spirit of our founders and to take charge. I am so very grateful to be among this crowd of people who care, people who have committed their lives to world peace, to understanding and friendship, who have issued passports to understanding to people around the world in incredibly powerful ways, and who are willing to try things that may have been deemed unimaginable even just a few years ago. Thank you for everything you do. We look forward to partnering with you, and we look forward to getting out there and really generating that movement. Thank you so very much.
Thank you to all of our speakers. Such powerful and inspiring messages with appreciation from all of us. Really, it's been a remarkable afternoon. I also want to thank all of the staff and faculty of World Learning, SIT, The Experiment, Peace Corps, NPTA, all of them who worked tirelessly to host this celebration today. Thank you all for being here with us. So I urge you as we conclude, please spend some time on our campus, have a look at the marker. Please enjoy a glass of sparkling wine or sparkling water down here in the tent. Inside in the Boys' House, there's some wonderful archival material, and we would urge you to take a look at that and just get to know each other. So thank you again, and really grateful that you are all here.
Final place is? Down here. Is the sign going to stay right there?
No, it is not. It will be, this is a temporary location.
Right. Can you tell us where it will be?
It's down below. All right, it will be placed down, right down below the hill. Yes, by the entrance. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy.